The abandoned bull stood alone at the edge of the scrubland, his broad frame marked with scars of a life half-lived in chains and fences. Once he had been bred for the ring-trained to charge at shadows, baited by the smell of blood and the roar of crowds. But now, long after he was deemed unfit for the spectacle, he wandered the dry meadows outside the village, half wild and wholly forgotten. His horns, curved like crescent moons, caught the sunlight as he lowered his head to graze. The locals called him El Fantasmath, the ghost bull. Children whispered that he was cursed, too stubborn to die, too proud to kneel. Yet no one dared to chase him off the land. Something about his solemn eyes made even the most hardened farmers step back. He was a creature who carried dignity like armor. One dusky evening, as the bull drank from a shallow creek, a sound reached his ears, thin, high-pitched, and desperate. He froze, his ears flicking. A cry, not the cry of prey being taken down by a hawk, not the growl of coyotes. This was different. It was the sound of something small, something vulnerable. The bull lifted his head and followed the sound. His hooves pressed into the soft earth, leaving deep tracks. The cries grew sharper. He pushed through a tangle of mesquite and found it. A bobcat cub, no larger than a rabbit, trapped between the gnarled roots of a fallen tree. Its fur was mottled with dust, its eyes wide with terror. It must have wandered too far from its mother and slipped, wedging itself into the roots. The cub clawed and hissed weakly, but it was too young, too frail. The bull approached slowly. His breath was heavy, warm, and the cub froze at the sight of the towering beast. To the little bobcat, this massive horned shadow must have seemed like death itself. But the bull lowered his head, not in aggression, but in a quiet gesture of recognition. He snorted softly, almost like a sigh, and pressed his muzzle against the roots. With a heave, he dug his horn beneath the tangled wood and pried it upward. The roots groaned, shifting just enough for the cub to wriggle free. The bobcat stumbled out, shaking its tiny body, trembling. It looked up at the bull, unsure whether to flee or hide, but the bull simply stood there, watching. He made no move to harm it. Slowly, awkwardly, the cub crept closer and pressed itself against his leg, as if instinct whispered that this giant was its protector. For the first time in many years, the bull felt a weight inside him ease. He had been left behind by men, discarded as useless. But in that moment, with a frightened life leaning against him, he found a reason to stand tall again. The nights in the scrubland could be cruel. Coyotes prowled, owls watched from the shadows, and snakes slithered beneath the rocks. The cub followed the bull wherever he went, its spotted coat brushing against his legs. At first, the bull thought it would wander off after a while. But the cub stayed as if tethered by invisible thread. When the bull grazed, the cub curled beneath his belly. When he lay down under the stars, the cub nestled against his massive side, purring faintly. Days turned into weeks. The bull became the cub's guardian, leading it to water holes, standing between it and danger. Once, when a coyote pack circled too close, the bull lowered his horns and thundered forward, scattering them like dry leaves in the wind. The cub watched, its eyes gleaming with fierce admiration. The bond grew strange and unbreakable. The bull was a creature of strength and solitude, the cub of speed and stealth, yet together they made a family born not of blood, but of survival. One afternoon, as the bull grazed near the foothills, the cub darted into the brush. Curious, the bull followed, and soon discovered why the cub had been alone that night weeks ago. A shallow cave lay hidden beneath the rocks. Inside, the skeleton of a female bobcat rested, its bones gnawed by scavengers, its fur long faded. The cub's mother had not abandoned it. She had died. The bull stood at the mouth of the cave, heavy sorrow pressing into his chest. The cub padded inside, sniffing at the remains, then returned to the bull's side, pressing its face into his leg. Well, from that moment on, the bull knew. He was all the cub had. And the cub, in turn, was all he had. But peace does not last in wild country. Word spread through the village of a bull roaming with a wild bobcat, an omen of bad luck. Farmers worried for their livestock. Hunters began to track them, rifles in hand, eager for a prize. One evening, as the sun bled red across the horizon, the bull smelled the metallic temps of men nearby. He lifted his head and saw figures on the ridge to hunters, watching. He knew the scent of humans too well. Sweat, gun oil, fear masked his power. His body tensed. The cub sensed danger too, its fur bristling. It hissed softly, pressing against him. The hunters descended with slow, deliberate steps. "That's him," one muttered. "El Fantasma, worth more dead than alive." Their rifles gleamed. The bull snorted, his chest swelling with breath. He had been forced to face men before, cornered, beaten, taunted. But this time, he was not fighting for spectacle. He was fighting for the cub. The hunters raised their rifles. The bull lowered his horns. Thunder split the air as the rifles cracked. Dust exploded around his hooves, a bullet grazing his flank. Pain lanced through him, but he did not falter. With a roar that shook the Scribbland, he charged. His hooves pounded like drums, his horns like twin spears of ivory. The hunters scattered, stumbling in terror. One fell, the other fled. The bull swung his head, sending the fallen man tumbling down the slope, his rifle clattering into the rocks. The cub darted behind him, safe. When the dust settled, the hunters were gone, their courage broken. The bull stood bleeding but unbowed, his breath ragged. The cub licked his wound gently, as if trying to heal him with touch alone. That night, beneath a sky blazing with stars, the bull lay down and let the cub curl into him once more. His wound throbbed, but he did not care. He had chosen his place in the world, not as a fighter in the ring, not as a ghost in the fields, but as a guardian. Seasons passed. The cub grew strong, its muscles lean and sharp. It learned to stalk, to leap, to hunt. Yet no matter how skilled it became, it always returned to the bull's side. Hunters whispered that they saw a phantom bull roaming with a shadow at his heels, a predator that glided like smoke. They feared him now. They left the land untouched. The bull aged, his steps slower, his horns dulled with time. But the fire in his eyes remained. The cub, no longer a cub, but a sleek and powerful bobcat, walked beside him like a son beside a father. Together, they became legend. Not a ghost, not a curse, but a tale whispered by firelight, of an abandoned bull who found redemption in saving a life, and of a wild creature who returned that gift by never leaving his side. Because sometimes family is not what we are given, but what we fight to keep.